I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil 8. It's a dark, moody, gothic, Victorian love letter to the series, and it ranks in the upper pantheons of the Resident Evil series. And unfortunately, there's a large contingent of fans, and altogether two large contingent of fans, that refuse to play it simply because of the first-person perspective, which is a damn shame because of just how great this game is. But what if I told you, coming soon in less than a week, there was a way to literally see this game in a new perspective, in third person, and I tried it out. Coming on the 28th as part of the Winter's DLC for $22, or as part of the Game of the Year Gold Edition for $60, Resident Evil 8 is getting a third-person mode, and quite frankly, it's pretty damn awesome. But before we get into the nitty-gritty on that, allow me to make a quick introduction. I'm Kieran Reese, the obsessive-compulsive gamer, the O.C.G., and I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil. And I make videos like this all the time, and I stream all the time, so if you could please like, comment, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. I'm really trying to make a go of this, and it seems like a little thing, but it means a lot to me. It's making my dream come true. That being said, let's hop into this. It all starts with Resident Evil 7, released in 2017. Now, most people genuinely agree that it's an excellent game that's super scary, brought the franchise back from the dead in a long hiatus, and is a very, very good game. But the first-person perspective is extremely divisive, and I personally know many, many people that didn't want to play it simply because it was the first in the entire series to be like that. No, I'm not talking about Resident Evil Dead Aim. That's a fucking light gun game. I'm talking about the main series. This was the first one. Let me say unequivocally, I am a huge fan of Resident Evil 7, and I love the first-person perspective. I think it puts you in the shoes of horror. And while it's really subjective, and obviously there's a lot of debate there, I like first person in general, and I can see the merits of it. So it never really bothered me. I like third person too. I like a wide variety of things. And the focus on first person led to arguably the greatest gunplay in the series at that point. The gunplay in Resident Evil 8 is immensely satisfying, as you can see here. It just clicks. Now, when the Resident Evil 2 remake was first announced, people were anxious that they were going to make it first person too, but they chose to stay true to the spirit of the original game and also keep it third person. A trend that continued in its follow-up, Resident Evil 3 remake, which I'm not going to get onto this entirely because it'll be a rant for another time. I actually really liked, despite a lot of people thinking it sucked. And this all combined to kind of make RE7 an outlier in the series, as the next two major games in the series afterwards went back to third person. That is, until we got Resident Evil 8 in 2021, last year, the most recent Resident Evil game as of this video. And it once again returned to first person. And despite most people agreeing it's generally excellent, I still get people that are close to me, who I won't name, my dad, who didn't want to play it because it was first person. So I was ecstatic to hear that they were actually putting in a third person mode in the game. That's part of the DLC. But I wondered how much work they were really putting into it, because it would take a lot of work. This game was made completely in mind with first person, and had that in mind with all of its perspectives, all of its animations, all of its everything. So, just how good would it be, especially considering the fact that it was going right after two games in the series that were made around third person, and the result is pretty fucking great. So really quickly, let's get out of the way the bad parts. You cannot switch between first and third person at any time. You can only switch from the menu, the main menu at the start of the game. So it's not going to be, I can open the option menu or even click a button. You have to choose at the start of your play session. You can easily quit and do that. But yeah, you cannot, just switch at any time. That's really a minor complaint, but I'm trying to get the little bit of bad stuff out of the way because there's not that much. The biggest thing that I could see people having a problem with is even in third person, all the cutscenes are in first person. It pans in really quickly like that as the cutscene begins.
Why are you here?
And then it quickly pans back out when the cutscene is finished, which honestly is kind of slick. Now I can already see people bitching about this. Oh, that's lazy, but people don't really understand the amount of work that would require. they did not make the game with a third-person DLC in mind, or third person in mind. They added it after the game was finished due to fan request. So, whereas every other person in the entire game, in the cutscenes, is mocapped, the main character never was, because you never actually see his face. So, they would have to basically redo every cutscene in the game by hand, and rehire the actor, redo his salary, and then do a whole mocap session, which would take weeks, months, and honestly would just be an insane amount of effort. So instead, it pans in and out. And honestly, I'm okay with that. It's fine. And that's about it for the really bad stuff, and it's not that bad. The painting is slick, it doesn't interrupt the pace of the game, and I can understand why they did what they did, because the amount of reworking it would take to just make the third-person cutscenes would be fucking insane. So let's get on to the good stuff, man. Let's hop right in. Last but not least, just in case you're wondering, no, you cannot see Ethan's face. It's deliberately designed so that no matter how fast you turn the camera around, you can't see it. People couldn't see it in the original game because, well, as it's been described, it was first person, and people were thinking, oh man, with this mode, we should be able to see it. No, you can't. In fact, photo mode won't even let you see it, so you can't see his face. It's not so much of a flaw as a direction, but I know there's going to be people that are undoubtedly disappointed by that, but, props to Capcom for sticking to their guns. So moving on to the good and the basics. How does it feel just to look and move around in third person? And the answer, really good. In fact, so good that you would never suspect that this was a game not made around third person. Lots of games that have dual perspectives like this can clearly be geared towards one or the other, and as a result can feel kind of janky. Like a lot of games, like Red Dead, you can clearly tell the movement is in third person while your aiming is in first person. So even in first person, you're feeling the movement of a third person game. That's not the case here, and honestly, it's really good. So what about the gunplay? Well, I was really curious to see how the gunplay would turn out, because Resident Evil 8 not only has the best gunplay in the entire series, but made huge strides in the gunplay, but it made those strides by copying other first-person shooters and aiming for a level of responsiveness that you'd see in a lot of popular modern first-person shooters. So, how would that translate to third-person? And the answer? Really, really well, with one caveat that I'll get to in a little bit. The shooting just feels amazing. They actually have separate camera settings for first and third person, so you can tweak each one to your liking. But overall, the shooting just feels absolutely awesome. I mean, the game lives or dies on that. So, you gotta respect that. It could not have been easy to take that, something made for first person, and adapt it to third person. But honestly, the shooting in third person shines, and it's just as good as its cousins that were made with third person. Gotta say I'm impressed. Now, the caveat I was talking about lies in the weapon switching. Resident Evil 8, a lot like Doom Eternal, lets you very quickly swap weapons to mitigate reloads. It's honestly so fast that it doesn't even make sense from an anatomical perspective. Now, slowing it down so you can properly see it, you can see that it's almost like Ethan has 8 arms. People joke and call it octopus arms. Switches in a way that doesn't make sense, but this was done for a reason, a good one. It was done to facilitate nearly instant weapon switching in combat. And boom, 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 almost to the point of absurdity, you can instantly do it, and in fact, it often can cancel out reloading animations, like racking the shotgun, which they call it reload canceling, and stuff like Doom Eternal. That's basically what it is. And honestly, it's super useful. I don't care if it doesn't look pleasing anatomically, you can switch almost instantly. It's good fun. You can see how I start with the pistol, shooting him, swap to a shotgun almost seamlessly, then swap back to a pistol to finish. As previously mentioned, this already looks incredulous from the first person. So in third person, you would literally, it would basically look like his arms were swapping instantly from one side of his body, like Lovecraftian. So the answer, the solution, to basically adjust it to be anatomically correct on third person. You can see that while he switches weapons, and not slowly, you can tell that it's far from instant, and that he has to take the time to fully put the weapon away and fully switch it, which honestly does kind of cut back on the fluidity. Now you can see that while weapon switching is quick in third person, it's nowhere near as quick, and it does kind of interrupt the fluidity. But honestly, this is really only going to affect the hardcore player base. Honestly, most hardcore players are the ones that took advantage of it, and I've even heard other people say, are they going to fix the... So yeah, all in all, third person mode is pretty damn great. And honestly, one of the best parts is the details, like, such as, they made a separate cutscene and animation for crawling through holes, even though it would have been honestly easier and less time-consuming to just make it so it was in first person, like the base game. Or how when he's by this brazier with flame in third person, they've actually created new animations for when enemies grab you. See, this is the standard animation when a vampire grabs you. They bite you, right? And now here's it again, slowed down so you can see it in more detail. Because I'm going to make an apt comparison. Now, it would have been easy to just take the same animation and reframe it in third person, but they made this whole new animation with the sword cutting through them, and it's fucking gnarly. Oh, that looks painful. Now let's look at it again in slow motion. That hurts. It's like he's basically trying to cut Ethan in nice little pieces. I actually prefer that over the first person animation, which is just the cliched being bitten. I like that a lot. They also have loads of special third person animations, like opening this chimney door, or putting the eye in the statue, as you can see here, and I'm sure tons of others, which is really cool and took a lot of effort. So yeah, I have to say, all things considered, I'm extremely impressed with the third-person mode in this game. It honestly is up to the same quality as Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake, and those games were both designed from the ground up with third-person in mind. So that's super impressive for a game that included it after the fact, to have it be done so well. Now, of course, there's lots more to be seen. This is just a small taste of the game. There's stuff I couldn't test out yet. Like, you can go third person in the boat. And obviously, that's not in this part of the game the demo covers, so I can't test that out. And there might be more flourishes and surprises in this that we don't know about. So, yeah, I'm excited to test out the full thing. And I will be testing out the full thing when it releases on the 28th. I'll be on that midnight. Last but not least, I want to end the video by asking you guys some questions. Do you like first person or third person better? And if you did like third person over first person, was the viewpoint in Resident Evil 7 and 8 enough to stop you from playing the game? And if so, would you now reconsider playing the game now that it has a third person mode? You can leave your answers in the comments below. I stream all the time. I'm going to make more videos about Resident Evil 8. I'm going to play through the entire thing in third person and give more thoughts on the final thing when I finished it. And I'm going to play the DLC that this comes with. So if you want to see that, you can once again like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I'm Kieran Reese, the obsessive compulsive gamer of the O.C.G, and I am out. See you later.